Senator, Black Lives Matter movement has been pretty getting a lot of attention in the Democrat primary process, and you've encountered that movement a couple of times in Arizona and Washington State. And you were asked a question about it at the last debate. I guess then you seem to fall short in some people, like Ta Nehisi Coates was criticizing you recently about. And you were asked the other day about reparations, and would you support reparations for the descendants of former slaves? And you said no, it would be, you'd never get it through the Congress, and it would be too divisive. Why do you think it would be divisive?
Well, because I think what the answer to that is that we understand that poverty and unemployment in the African American community is much, much too high. And I think what we have got to do and what we are focusing on in this campaign is the issue of poverty, is the issue of high unemployment. So the issue is, if we have 51% of African American kids who are unemployed or underemployed, what do we do? What do we do? And I'll tell you what we do. We support legislation that I introduced with Congressman John Conyers that would bring billions of dollars into low-income communities to put our kids to work or make sure that they're in school rather than in jail. So there is no candidate who is running who has a stronger domestic agenda to create jobs and educational opportunity for young people and low-income people in this country. Right? And that's where I think we have got to target. So if the question is, are we going to be aggressive to deal with poverty in general, and disproportionately people living in poverty are African American, often Latino, that's what I will do.
So if you didn't think it was divisive and it could go through Congress, do you think it's a good idea on its face, this idea of reparations? It keeps coming up.
Well, I think the major focus I think the major focus right now is when you have 47 million people living in poverty, when 51% of African American kids are unemployed or underemployed, when we have a child care system which is virtually dysfunctional, when we have a situation where low-income kids can't afford to go to college. Those are the areas that I would focus on.
But do you support the principle of it? That's what Tom is asking.
Does anybody else support the principle of it? Do you support the principle of it?
No.
No candidate, no.
What?
No candidate.
I mean, it's a big word. What does it mean? I mean, what slavery is one of the great abominations of our time. That's all. We have to recognize what it was, and we have to do everything that we can to address that.
You can see that he didn't want to address the question of reparations for descendants of former slaves, and whoever becomes the Democrat nominee will have to address that question. They're going to continue to be pressed by the Black Lives Matter movement, Ta Nehisi Coates, and others. I hope they can continue to hold out against it, but time will tell.